Committee will come to order. Roll call, please.
Chairman Moiseo.
Here.
Alderman Seager.
Present.
Alderman Florian.
Present.
Alderman Kirkwood. Alderman Turner.
Here.
Approval of minutes. Motion to approve the minutes of August the 5th, 2019, regular meeting of the Community Development Committee. Motion by Alderman Turner, second by Alderman Florian. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. What I would like to do now, motion to suit Alderman Kirkwood, Alderman Turner, second by Alderman Florian. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Kirkwood's not even
He's right there.
here. Wait a minute, he's not even
What I would like to do now, I have a feeling why I know why the audience is here for a committee meeting. I'm going to make a motion to move audience time up and let the audience talk first, and then we will proceed with the agenda. That will help with time. When you come up here, remember it's 3 minutes. Just take a statement. There is no give and take. There's no question and answer. You're free to say what you want to say, but the committee up here will probably not respond to you, nor if you make a statement and then someone comes up and makes a counter statement. It's not give and take. That's not how this works. Everybody has the right to come here and speak their piece. It's not a debate. The reason it is that is because if we had that, we would be here for 5 days. And that's no disrespect to anybody, but we do have some bills we have to pay at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay? So with that, I'm going to take a motion by Alderman Turner, second by Alderman Florian, to move audience time up to, so that'd be number 6. We're going to move that up to number 3. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Anybody? We don't have a sign-in sheet for the committee, so I think we can be all orderly and you can stand up in line if you want, you can stand up however you guys want to do it, okay? So whoever wants to go first, you are more than welcome. You have 3 minutes, and go ahead and state your point. Thank you.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay. First of all, thank you for taking the time. Thanks everybody for coming out. Honestly, this is the most crowd I've seen a committee meeting in quite a while. I think the thing that everybody's here to talk about is the extension of the stack at the Medline plant. What we know about this so far is we know that under oath the Medline representatives said that they have completed their first round of upgrades. There's going to be no more filtration for the stack, and they've also said that the extension of the stack is not going to provide any extra filtration and that they don't actually need it to come in line with EPA guidelines. They said this all at the Planning and Zoning Commission last week. Now, what that does is it actually gives us a before and after picture of the air surrounding these facilities during this last round of air testing. What we do know is that at the site closest to Medline, the site designated M3 in the air quality study, before the controls were put in place, the averages around that facility, that testing site, were 6.4 micrograms per meters cubed. That's 39 times the control values, not the actionable values, but the lowest values that we could actually find in the area, known as sites R1 and R2. After these controls were put in place, the average values were 2.5 micrograms per cubic meter. That's 15 times the control levels that we could find. So the control average was a little bit higher than what we'd expect to find, and that's 1.6 micrograms or 0.16 micrograms per meters cubed. The point that I'm trying to make here is that we know what these values are after these upgrades have been completed. As there's going to be no more filtration to the stack, I think that we should just go ahead, do this second round of air testing with the controls that they have in place. If these controls that Medline has put in place are really good enough to protect the people of this community, then that'll come out in the air testing. All this stack is going to do is it's going to push this stuff up higher. This stuff is heavier than air. Ethylene oxide has a molecular weight of approximately the same as CO2. It's going to drop down. It's just a matter of where it drops down. That's all this stack is going to do, is change where it drops down. So I think you should vote against it and allow the air testing to happen. And if the protections that Medline has put in place are good enough, then they're good enough. The experiment is finished. That's all I've got to say.
Just walk on up. No, I think you guys can go in any order you want. I don't care what order you guys go in. You guys, whatever order you want to go in, doesn't matter. Those guys, yeah, they will make a statement. Sure. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Rob Callia. I'm the Vice President of Quality Assurance at Medline in Waukegan. I've worked in Waukegan for 4 years, and I followed this issue with great interest, as I have the closest office to the stack. I'm on the second floor, about stack high, closest to the sterilizer, and the PAC building, the larger building next door. I've spent countless hours researching this issue, talking with experts, toxicologists, scientists, and engineers. And here are the facts I've learned. EO helps save lives. Every day, products we make in Waukegan help save lives at hospitals throughout the Midwest. While there are several methods of sterilization, EO is the only available method for many, many devices. For the devices we produce in Waukegan, there are no alternatives. When our new emission controls are fully installed, which will be in about November, we will destroy approximately 99.99% of all EO used. IEPA projects that the air coming out of our stack will be lower than the detection limit, less than 1 part per billion. Just so you understand how small that is, human respiration of EO is about 1.9 parts per billion. Cars, trucks, buses emit EO at a rate of more than 100 parts per billion. Barbecues emit EO at a rate of 3,500 parts per billion. And you don't have to take my word for these numbers. Technology is available to test the amount of EO generated at the source of these common everyday items in real time. You'll hear tonight that claims that no level of EO is safe. If that were true, every human in history would be at elevated risk. It just doesn't make any sense. The truth is, EO is all around us and would be even if all of the EO sterilization facilities were shut down. There's also a claim that a taller stack will disperse and spread EO over a broader area, increasing exposure risks to more communities. But there's no evidence of this. IEPA and every other expert we've talked to says the stack height increase will reduce EO exposure for everyone, both those close to the facility and those further away. I'm proud to stand with my colleagues as we continue to serve patients across the Midwest. We urge you to look at the facts. The fact is, EO helps save lives. The fact is, EO needs to be used safely. Medline has always used EO under appropriate controls and is committed to ensuring that the Waukegan facility has world-class controls. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening, Council. So I'm just here on behalf of Clean Power Lake County to just make a quick statement. Celeste Flores. Thanks, Lynn. Clean Power Lake County is a grassroots organization led by volunteers and concerned citizens. And for many years, we have been around these conversations around clean energy, toxic legacy, and addressing environmental issues. And we hope that you guys will do the right thing and listen to the community and take into concern all of the health concerns and everything else we've been talking about for a year now, and hope that you guys will vote to deny the permit and continue working with us as we move forward to revitalize our community and work towards renewable energy and making sure there aren't toxic chemicals in our air. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Tea Tanaka. I have a question first. The comments that we make now, can we still make comments after 7 o'clock? Or, okay, it's not just the one time and then we're done. Okay, thank you.
Real quick, ma'am.
Yes.
I don't know if it'll happen on the council, but I was gonna make a motion on the council floor to move this vote before audience time.
Okay.
It may not happen, but we'll see.
We've told the community to show up at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, you can come, you can talk whenever you want. I'm just gonna say we may vote this before audience time.
Isn't that a bit unfair to vote before audience
I
time?
mean, it depends on how.
Apparently, Medline has filled the room. Our people think that they're supposed to be here at 7.
You can still talk. I didn't say you couldn't, but we'll see.
I can, but what about hundreds of people that are supposed to come here today?
They can talk to you.
After you voted, what's the
Maybe.
point?
Well, we'll see. I don't know. We'll see how it votes here. Go ahead.
Okay, well, first of all, my name is Tea Tanaka. I'm a core member of Stop ETO in Lake County. I want to tell you a little bit of ethylene oxide. It's been known that it's a known human carcinogen since December of 2016. It's been known that it's a potential carcinogen since the 60s and 70s. So when they say EO saves lives, they're lying. All it means is they're sterilizing medical equipment, which can be sterilized by alternative methods. Many other companies are available already and do that already. So that's a lie. Second, when they say that people exhale ethylene oxide, that's also a lie. What they're not telling you is you only exhale ethylene oxide after you've inhaled ethylene. So if you're not inhaling ethylene, you're not making ethylene oxide. And how many people do you know that inhale ethylene? So that's another thing that I wanted to say. So next, let me read my speech. We're a citizen-led movement trying to eliminate carcinogenic ethylene oxide emissions from our air. The Illinois EPA has lost credibility, and we're not able to trust or rely on them. They have suggested the taller stack to Medline. The intention of the EPA is not to protect us. Stop ETO formed last November, right after we were notified from Chicago Tribune of a dangerous Class 1 carcinogen being emitted by 2 facilities in Lake County, and Medline is one of them. To repeat, we found out that our air gives people cancer from a newspaper article in Chicago Tribune. We should have been told about that by the agency that is supposed to protect us. They know which facility emits ETO. They are the agency that issues their permits. They knew then, and they know now, that ETO is a known human carcinogen, and no levels are safe. After we coalesced into a movement,
That's your 3 minutes.
even the questions that were asked,
Here's the problem. If I let you go longer than 3 minutes, I gotta let everybody else here go longer than 3 minutes. If the council, everybody else has gotta go 3 minutes, and if I don't, I end up in court across the street.
okay.
So you got 3 minutes. I'm sorry. If I let you go longer than that, next thing you know, somebody's suing us because we let you go too long. All right?
Hello, my name is Sean Huber. I've been with Medline for 15 so years. I've been directly involved in the use of ethylene oxide for almost 30 years. While I really appreciate the emotional conviction of everybody here who has a very special response to the topic because of the cancer that everybody has dealt with in their lives, it's also found to be a reproductive toxin, which we all know sounds horrible, but the only way to reduce pathogenic risk of anything that we use to prevent sepsis and prevent infection is to kill those infections by preventing them. And that's the only way to do that is to reduce the pathogenic life of anything that's in a kit or a Band-Aid or anything we use. We drive by a building every day that we have no clue what's going on inside that building. Yet Waukegan's a partner with our manufacturer to prevent the lives of many people dying in infection in post-surgical site infections and hospital-acquired infections. It's a very emotional topic. I don't know if you know anything about ranchers and how they deal with snakes, but when snakes are raised, one of the things they have to do is prevent the snake from eating itself. Waukegan is a partner with Medline to employ over 600 employees. We don't want to have a knee-jerk reaction to how we deal with this topic. If we do want to move the needle forward to a safer solution, we can do that, but it doesn't take overnight, and it's not going to be done by stopping a stack from being built. If there's opportunities for us to reduce our infection prevention process, let's methodically look at it, let's get the facts straight, and let's all arbitrate what those facts are. I appreciate the perceived lies that people think is involved. And I would imagine that you do have you have a very non-enviable job right now because you have to wade yourself through all these facts. And it's very difficult to identify what are facts, what's fiction. You're going to hear some conviction and passion from people who mean well and don't want their siblings, their parents, their children to die from cancer. Our coworkers don't want our parents to die from cancer or our children. We just lost a very good friend today in that world, and it's a horrible thing to happen. Everybody here is on pins and needles and very, very sensitive to the topic. At the end of the day, ethylene oxide is the only industrial application used right now for over 70% of all sterilized products in the world. The FDA and ISO standards are designed to protect us from the infection that's used, and it's a very methodical process. You'll hear details that I can't even explain. But I totally agree with the passion and the conviction of everybody here, but the facts are we are enjoying a community partnership with Waukegan to employ 600 plus people to ensure that our communities, our hospitals can produce safe and effective product that's sterile and pathogenic free. If there is alternatives, let's put that on the radar, but that's not knee-jerk and just say no stack. That just doesn't seem realistic to me. Let's have a conversation like we are tonight. Thank you very much.
So my name is Chris Smith, and in response to what he said, yeah, let's not do a knee-jerk. We have apples to apples that we can compare right now without an increased stack height. Any chemistry experiment or biological experiment, you're going to change one variable. You change the stack height and put canisters in the same area, they're going to be lower. I mean, it's just common sense. Don't put the stack height up. Reject the permit. Let's make sure that their things that they're putting in are fine. Yeah, of course, we don't want Medline to go. We just want clean air. You know, I know like 4 or 5 people that died in their 40s or 50s. Could it be related to ETO? It might be. Who the heck knows? But what did they do at Willowbrook? Same thing. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm just a resident. But when somebody gives you a limit of 0.02 and you're up at 4 and 5 and 6, 10, doesn't that seem kind of crazy? That's like, okay, well, how far past the speed limit can you go before you get a ticket? Or how far past that building line can I build before they get me? Let's just compare apples to apples. Reject the stack height. Let's see if the buffers and everything worked out. Then fine. Then you know what? If everything's better and the numbers are better, then fine. Give them the upper stack height so they can spread it out to more people. But I'm going to tell you, just putting it up higher is not going to reduce the amount that they're giving out. Let's compare apples to apples, please. And I am just like not a scientist or anything, and I hope that you guys do the right thing. Let's just compare apples to apples. Don't give the stack height yet. They can come back for it another time.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Franklin, and I've been with Medline for 17 years. And just like she says, I'm not a scientist, but I'm a resident of Waukegan, been here over 40 years. I don't have cancer. And a lot of people that have been at Medline for years and years, we don't have cancer. What Medline does do is provide lives. We save lives. We build kits. So people that need heart surgeries, knee surgeries, all those things, that's what we do. We don't come to destroy lives. And unfortunately that you guys feel that way, because one day one of your families may need one of our packs to save your lives. So please build the stacks. We need the stacks. If it's going to make it better, then that's fine. Don't take away our No, don't take away our cows and our airplanes or our stacks. I mean, we all want to make this a better place to live. And that's what, do you have an alternative method? Right. So all I'm saying is, if you got something better, then let's see it. But right now, we're doing really good, and people need Medline. Waukegan needs it because Medline employs a lot of people, and we take our money and we spend it in the city of Waukegan. And we pay for our bills in Waukegan. And Waukegan needs Medline, and we love Medline. So God bless Medline, and please do the right thing for the city of Waukegan, for our financials and our families and the stores that we shop in. So our economy is the biggest thing, and Medline provides that also. So that's all I want to say. And thank you for employing me, Medline. I appreciate it.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathy Atkins. I have been a 35-year resident of Gurnee. Been in Gurnee that long where there were cornfields. There were no malls or any great highways that it is now. And I remember a Medline that did not sterilize. So, just to say that, sir. But what I've been hearing is all about livelihood, and no, I don't think anyone wants to stop Medline from operating. We're just asking Medline to do the research, to check it out. If they're wrong, fix it, because people's lives depend on it. Yes, you save lives. Yes, you do, and I can attest to that. However, you kill more in the long run than you do in the short term of saving lives with your instruments and your sterilization. Now, I have 2 grandchildren, 2, and both are being raised in this area. And I'm a little concerned because of the fact that if they're breathing in ethylene oxide and it's getting into their cells and they're eventually going to end up with some type of ailment, we never know, I have an issue with that. And if it means that not building a smokestack to protect my grandchildren, then I will always say, no, you're not going to build it. We're going to fight it. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Laura Simmons. I'm the president of Quality Assurance and Regulatory Affairs with Medline, and I've been with the company for about 28 years. And I'd like to thank the committee for taking the time to listen to us, listen to the community, and consider this request for a variance on our permit. Medline's commitment to this community runs deep. As you've heard from some of our employees, we are the nation's largest privately held healthcare company. We have over 600 employees in the Waukegan area. About 480 employees live in the Waukegan area. We're asking for this permit, for this variance, because our research, the information we have, says this is the right thing to do for the community. We are committed to doing the best thing we can to make the community safe while allowing us to continue to manufacture and sterilize our custom packs. I recognize the level of skepticism that may occur for what I'm about to say, but you don't have to take my word for it. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration will explain that currently the only method to sterilize surgical packs that is scientifically valid, that doesn't damage the packs, is ethylene oxide. It is not the cheapest method of sterilization. Steam and gamma radiation are cheaper and faster. If I could use those to sterilize these packs and spare myself and everybody here this conversation, I would. But I can't. We are committed to putting in the best available abatement technology. We're spending millions of dollars to do so. The first stage is complete. The rest of the controls will be completed sometime in October or November. Part of that, I would hope, would be an increased stack height, because that is the best available technology based on the information we've been given, and that's why it's put in our permit. I understand you're going to hear a lot of information tonight, so I'm not going to keep going on. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions or anything you would like to hear from me, or if there's anybody I can connect you to that might be able to answer some of your questions, I'm happy to do so. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Jasper Tice. I'm the director of DHS for Medline Industries. I hope everyone's doing okay tonight. Let me just give a little bit of background on my expertise. I have a master's of science in public health. I'm a certified industrial hygienist, and I'm a certified hazardous materials manager. I'm very close to this issue and deal with it firsthand. One of the things I'd like to enlighten is that emissions controls are primary. So the scrubbers that we're putting in, the different technologies that we're putting in, those are the primary systems for emissions control. If the stack is essentially a secondary control, it's not a primary control. Okay, let me speak. So the stack, what it does is it makes sure that it gets out of the ambient breathing level. All right? That's after we control the emissions down to 99.99% plus that we can achieve. So by denying the stack, all you're doing is you're basically just denying the secondary control. Part of the problem is that these primary controls are the key. We're going to be measuring the stack continuously with a continuous emissions monitoring system. So we're going to know exactly what's coming out of it. The stack is just a tool to make sure that it gets out of the ambient breathing level. Ethylene oxide has a very high vapor density, which means it's a volatile organic compound. When it gets into the air, it diffuses with air. It is not going to come back down to the breathing level. That's a misconception, okay? So with these things in place, this is not a means to dilute. This is not dilution is the end of pollution. That's not the phrase. What this is it just takes it out of the breathing level. It controls it further. It makes sure that we're not going to be breathing ethylene oxide. By denying that, all you're doing is you're just reducing our ability to reduce that risk. It's not an apples to apples comparison, okay? If we don't have the stack in place, we're still going to be installing the controls. The numbers are not going to be the same. It's not an apples to apples comparison. Let me emphasize that 15 more times. It is not an apples to apples comparison, okay? So with that being said, let's all work towards engaging this dialogue. Let's be fair with each other. Let's talk about things and think about where we can get to in terms of a better place. There's a lot of positivity in this. We're making changes. We're doing everything that we can feasibly possible to get to where we need to be. We're working with the IEPA to make sure that we do all the right things and put all the appropriate measures in place. If you deny us the ability to be able to do this and move it forward, you're just harming the community and you're not getting anything out of it other than trying to say that you can compare one to the other. That is simply not the case. Thank you.
My name is So. I'm a core member of the Stop PTO. It's when you listen to the side from the Medline and side from the Stop PTO, and then you're like, okay, which one is true? You hear some stories about the exhaust from the car, and then 10 microgram per cubic meter from the Medline around the Medline. You go like this, and they're trying to install the stack height, make it higher so that it's better for the community. My question to them is, what were you doing for the 25 years, last 25 years? Why didn't you do anything? Right, so that's the proof that they don't care about the community. They say they care about the community, but they didn't do anything for 25 years. November 2nd, news came out, you guys started to rush. Oh my God, we're in trouble. All of a sudden they start rushing and trying to do the controls, spend $1 million finally, after 25 years. So that's the proof right there that they don't care about the communities. They don't care about all the ethylene oxides emitting thousands of pounds every year. When they were in Medline, they were emitting up to 40,000 pounds. That's a lot of ethylene oxide. It doesn't matter how much you save life. That's not a permission to poison the community. If you really cannot do it, you have to go somewhere else, right? If you have to do nuclear testing, you have to go somewhere else. You can't say, oh, I don't have a place. No, you have to go out in middle of nowhere and do the testing. Or you have to do some kind of experiment, dangerous experiment. You got to go somewhere else. So you got to go somewhere else. If you can't find anything, you got to go somewhere else. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dale Greason. I'm a VP of Quality Assurance at Medline. I've been there for 18 years. I'm reading this on behalf of a colleague who could not make it today. This is from Angela Carranza. She is Medline's Clinical Resource Manager. She's been at Medline for 6 years, employed at the SPT facility right next to the sterilizer. Prior to taking her role with Medline, she was a scrub-in nurse in the OR for over 13 years at large, well-known hospital systems such as the Mayo Clinic and SSM, Wisconsin. So Angela is saying, I'm a surgical technologist in the OR. The surgical technologist's primary responsibility is to pass instruments to the surgeon during the surgery. We are also experts in the theory and application of principles of asepsis and sterile technique. Sterile technique is a common practice in the operating room, labor and delivery, and special diagnostic areas of the hospital. Sterile technique is essential to preventing surgical site infections, also known as SSIs. A patient undergoing any surgical procedure has a risk of developing a surgical site infection. These SSIs make up a substantial portion of major morbidity and death in post-surgical patients. Sterile technique utilizing sterile supplies has been defined as the standard of practice to minimize the risk for over a century. The Medline surgical kit provides the base foundation for sterile surgical procedures, whether it's an operating room correcting grandpa's cataracts, grandma's hip, or removing your niece's tonsils. It could also be in the ER delivering a baby that came too fast in or out to a hospital, or a kidney recovery because someone we love has been waiting for this exact moment for this transplant. This is us, this is Medline. We build a sterile foundation for surgery. We're not only partners with major healthcare systems, we're partners with you, the patient. Your safety as patients within our community is our concern, always has been, and always will be. That's from Angela Carranza. Thank you.
My name is Sarah Crawford, and I'm a core member of Stop ETO. I have 2 young daughters that I'm trying to protect. Now, I don't want anyone to die from not getting a sterile kit, but I also don't want my children to get breast cancer. During the Planning and Zoning Committee, we learned that the stack height is not needed to bring Medline into compliance. Laura Simmons, Medline's president, of Quality Assurance, who we just heard from, stated this fact. Next, I would like to remind you all that there is no true data conducted with an 85-foot stack. This is an exercise that has been conducted simply by modeling. I have listened to both Stephen King and Chris Romaine of the Illinois EPA talk about this modeling that has been done. Increasing the stack height may theoretically reduce the concentration levels of ETO at Medline, and yet it will also expose a much larger population to this poisonous gas. Let me remind you, it only takes 1 molecule of ETO to alter your DNA, your children's DNA, your grandchildren's DNA. Raising the stack height is irresponsible and self-serving. It will only benefit a reckless polluter. I listened to the Illinois EPA experts, and they have not been able to provide us with any real, true data about how far the trajectory of this poisonous ETO will fall on our homes, schools, and daycares in both Waukegan and Lake County. I am here to urge the city to reject this permit. Please vote in favor of the people you are sworn to serve and protect, not a corporation that is refusing to put public health over profit. The longer this fight continues, the more time we will have to build awareness. Democracy will prove itself in the upcoming election. How you vote today will be an indicator of who stands for the protection of the community and its children, and who sides with the polluter at the expense of the community. Who stands on the right side and who stands on the wrong side of history. You are the leaders in our community. Please ask Medline to work with the FDA to find an alternative sterilization method to ethylene oxide. There are the alternatives that people speak of. I am not asking Medline to shut down or move. It is not my intention to affect the livelihood of their employees. I'm simply asking that Medline be a true, good corporate citizen and find another way to sterilize. You have the power to request this and to protect us. Please reject the Medline permit. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Diane Surufka. I'm a core member of Stop ETO in Lake County. First, I want to enter into the record and tell you that Taya Tanaka, who testified earlier, is a molecular biologist, all but dissertation. She'd have her PhD. Secondly, I want to concur with Sarah, what she said about the death of people. You who are on the board today will make a decision to vote and either approve the permit or deny the permit. The Zoning and Planning Committee, your team, has not brought that forward to you. They have not approved the permit. We went door to door in some of the wards. Moisio's ward, these are his residents who don't even know him and do not want the stack height raised. These are the people from Newsom's ward who do not want the stack raised, most of whom do not even know that ward alderman. This is the people from Turner's ward who do not know the alderman and do not want that stack raised. At every door, all of the people said yes, they wanted to sign the permit, the petition. At every door, we raised the same question. We gave the same information. Are you aware of the stack? Are you aware that there's ETO in the neighborhood? All questions. We gave them information. We have held town halls to give out information. We have not tried to sway anybody's vote, not when we had these permits in front of us. Closer to the ground, the children are the ones that pick up the ETO. There has been tests and there have been studies. It doesn't go to the blood. It doesn't go to the lungs like cigarette smoke. It goes to the DNA and it attaches. It does not leave the DNA. It is in there in perpetuity. It will go from generation to generation and put that on your family tree. It does not leave. You do not know for 400 years when that DNA will pop. It will show as rare, obscure cancers. If you go into an emergency room, if it is not in your history, if it is not next to your vaccination for your children, the ER doctors will not know where to look. Medline, you know this. Secondly, you talked about the scrubber being an additional. You're right. The 65-foot is an additional way of cleaning. The first scrubbers were put on. There was no test. How can you test and know that that has been cleaned, the ETO air has been cleaned? You won't be able to. You're not comparing apples to apples. You admitted that. Why is there a rush to judgment to put on the 85-foot stack? Why are you rushing for this? Wait until the test has been done on the first scrubbers. Additionally, we have told every parent at every door we have knocked on to document, to put in their child's record, to attach to their medicine, their medical card. Thank you. The fact that they have lived near an ETO producing manufacturing company and have it. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jim O'Brien. I'm a Lake County resident, and I've worked in Waukegan for the past 25 years. I'd like to start by saying that Medline has always operated below our permitted state and federal levels for the entire time that we've been in operation. So to say we're not a good corporate partner to Waukegan is wrong. I'd like to reiterate a couple points that and clear up some misinformation. Many people don't realize that EO is a naturally occurring substance. It's naturally occurring. Gas grills, trucks, cooking oil, even plant decay emit EO. Our emission controls being installed will reduce emissions to ambient air levels. Quite simply, that means that the air coming out of our plant will be cleaner than the air around it. School buses will emit far greater concentrations of EO than our facility. We're not talking about banning school buses. Another piece of misinformation, to call us liars is wrong. No, I'm not. To call us liars is wrong. We're hardworking people doing the right thing. This is a standard set forth by the FDA, what we can sterilize with. We're told what we can sterilize with. There are no alternative options. I don't want to be here. I'm here because I'm passionate about it, because it is the only option we have, and we're not liars. What we're doing is following the request of the Illinois EPA. They're requesting and saying that the stack height will be better. Raising the stack height will be safer. So I'm confused too. I'm confused while we all want the same thing. We want the safest environment for our community. And if the Illinois EPA is suggesting that we should raise the stack height, why wouldn't we do that? Why wouldn't we do it? We've been a part of this community for 25 years. I've been working there for 25 years. We've always done the right things. And I believe the right thing here is to increase the stack height. Thank you.
Ronald Reagan said, "Trust but verify." We don't think you're lying. We just want to make sure that what's coming out of that stack is what is supposed to be coming out of that stack and nothing more. Right now, the equipment that can be placed on top of that stack is not accurate enough to measure what the EPA says is dangerous. Now, we appreciate everything you're doing, how serious you are, and we commend you for your interest. Should we also be pointed out that the pollution controls are being put in on an expedited, rapid timeline. That's not insignificant. But we're asking for a good check and apples to apples. You'll get your stack height, but not until that we know that what's coming out of that stack is below actionable levels. That's all we want. Now, the thing is, it'd be easier to have faith in you if you had acted on this sooner. The EPA report came out in 2014. This is a big issue in the gubernatorial race in 2018. You didn't start acting on pollution controls until the middle of this year. If you wanted to be proactive, you should have started back in 2015. And then you would have had a lot more goodwill in this community. We appreciate, and don't tell us we're emotional. Yes, we're fighting for the lives of our children and our grandchildren, but we are homeowners and taxpayers, and we are not blind to the fact that you are an important member of this community. We're just asking you to be responsible members of this community. Thank you very much.
Good evening to everybody. Thanks for giving me these few minutes here. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna read a letter from the bottom of my heart. I would like to express my gratitude to Medline Industries for the privilege that you have provided to my wife and me. For years, we have worked on this wonderful company for 18 years, and this company has believed in us and gave us the opportunity to work. To the recession in our country was a severe financial crisis lasting 2007 and 2009, right? Medline employed and even give us overtime, and other companies were closing and taking off the overtime to the people. Medline has been more than support my family during very difficult time. I wish most prosperity grow to the leadership of this company, and that vision continue to expand to other countries. Like we have now France, we have Australia, Japan, we have Mexico, United States, saving life. And we really appreciate the support that you people give us during this year. So Medline, thank you so much for helping us when we need you. Thanks a lot.
Hi, my name is Barb Hernandez, and I'm a concerned citizen. I had a whole speech prepared about my husband who died from cancer. He spent a lot of time in Waukegan working with gangs and getting them out of gangs. But at the risk of being emotional, I totally changed what I want to talk about. So on this city council meeting sheet, it says that the meeting is at 7 p.m. for the general public, not 5 p.m. If you look on the back of the sheet, way down, number 5A is when the motion to approve the zoning of the permit would be approved or denied. So I ask that you honor that, as people are not coming until 7, and they have a right to be heard. You are our elected officials that we put into office, and the people have a right to come to you. I feel it would be grossly unfair. And then regarding the stack, I sat through the other day almost 3 hours of the Willowbrook meeting, where several people and elected officials got up and spoke. But what was notable was a gentleman from the IEPA named Chris Romaine they were talking about the 87-foot stack, and one of the town people said, what would that stack actually do? And Chris Romaine responded by saying that the higher stack of at least 87 feet, they want 87 feet there, would reduce the downwash in the immediate area by dispersing it out. When asked how that would help, he said, we're dispersing it better everywhere by reducing the concentration of exposure to everyone. And the lady could only remark, so everybody gets some? It only takes one molecule. So let's not put the cart before the horse, okay? Let's see what the testing in the future, October, November, whenever it's going to happen, let's see what that shows in relation to the prior canister testing. And then let's proceed and talk about a stack. But until then, you know, it is apples to oranges if we test after. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Morgan. I've been with Medline for 11 years. The majority of my time is spent working with local hospitals, national hospitals, surgery centers, and physician offices to find ways to help patients and to save lives. One common theme for every one of those care settings is how they're going to use their resources, the limited resources they have, to serve as many patients as they possibly can, and how they can do that safely and by preventing infections. It's our facility is an integral part of our nation's healthcare system. Over 135 hospitals in the state of Illinois rely on our surgical kits to provide a safe, sterile environment for their patients. If EO were to become unavailable, or as you say, there's alternative methods, which there are not because of the materials within our kit, there's no other method of sterilization compatible with those materials. Hospitals and surgery centers around the world would be immediately impacted. They would not be able to care for patients who needed emergency C-sections, who needed hernias repaired, knees replaced. We're not talking about these surgeries that no one has. These are surgeries that our nieces and nephews and our children have every single day. Angela Pfeiffer, who's on my team, spent 24 years in the OR, and she said if we didn't have these sterile packs, operating rooms would close. Medically needed procedures would be canceled. Canceling life-saving operations would affect each and every one of us, and we know that. Every single kit we produce in Waukegan belongs to a single patient, and when we produce them, we keep our patients in mind. That could be any one of us in this room or any one of our family members. Healthcare providers rely on us to use validated clinical processes for sterilization, and any disruption in that process is going to disrupt and be devastating to our community, to our families, and potentially hospitals and surgery centers around the country. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity for me to speak tonight. My name is Kevin Madison. I work with the Bureau of Air at the Illinois EPA, and I'm representing the stack height increased stack height at Medline. I was involved in the review process of the application submitted by Medline for the construction permit issued by the agency on May 30th, 2019. Along with me, I have a fellow co-employee, Stephen King, who works at the Air Quality Planning section at the Illinois EPA and was involved in reviewing the dispersion modeling submitted by the Medline as part of the permit application process. To further address its ethylene oxide emissions, Medline has been issued a construction permit. Under the construction permit, Medline will install several new control technologies, place the building under negative pressure, thereby capturing 100% of the emissions, and routing all those emissions to the control systems. The construction permit also includes performance requirements of that control system. It also limits annual emissions to 150 pounds a year out that stack. The permit requires state-of-the-art emission monitoring to be installed at the stack, and then also includes requirements for performance testing via stack testing. The measurements set forth in the permit go well beyond the requirements under the current National Emission Standards of Hazardous Air Pollutants, NESHAP, Subpart O. Additionally, Illinois EPA required that Medline replace the existing stack and vents to one newer, taller stack. We'd like to briefly address the rationale for the taller stack, which goes beyond the current city ordinance, the impacts of any extension, and whether the extension is required. Mr. King will speak on the technical aspects and the rationale of that stack height increase.
By way of background, the presence of buildings near a stack can affect plume rise and initial dispersion of pollutants within the atmosphere. And this goes for any structure that air can't flow through, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a building, it could be a silo or anything. At Medline, there are two buildings that have the potential to affect the stack plume. The purpose of the stack height increase is to address any potentially unnatural effects on dispersion. Specifically, an extended stack would minimize building-induced downwash of the plume, which may occur when the stack emissions interact with the building, creating a current or eddy, which pulls the plume down to the ground, which can result in excessive concentrations, and then that plume spreads out. So by raising the stack, what you're trying to do is minimize excessive ground level concentrations that are caused by the effects that the building has on the plume. A stack height increase has no effect on the emissions. The emissions are capped at 150 pounds a year, and the stack has nothing to do with that. Rather, the stack will limit downwash, which will substantially reduce all ethylene oxide ambient impacts regardless of the location. With the stack at 85.3 feet instead of 60, every single location or receptor that the model calculates within 1 kilometer, that's about a little bit more than a half mile, and beyond that of Medline, it results in lower concentrations of ethylene oxide emissions and lower lifetime risk. It's not pushed elsewhere, and it's not solving it by diluting. You're trying to remove the downwash from occurring due to the building having the impact on the stack. Kevin's going to finish up with a couple comments.
These actions will significantly reduce the emissions and impact from Medline. The annual emission limit being established in the permit is set at the current level at the detection limit of our monitoring, but we believe that the actual emissions from the facility are expected to be a lot lower. Dispersion modeling for Medline with these changes has been performed. The modeling has shown these changes, modeling impacts will be far below US EPA's referenced 1 in 10,000 or 100 in a million risk level. As to whether the stack is required, the answer is yes, if the city of Waukegan desires lower concentrations of ethylene oxide, thus lower lifetime risk. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Allison Ward. I've been employed by Medline for 5 years. Prior to that, I worked for another medical device company, also in the Waukegan area, who manufactured similar products. My role within Medline is to work really closely with our locally and national partners in regards to providing patients better outcomes and better service. Specific to ethylene oxide, I spoke to some of our partners that include some of the largest and most prestigious medical facilities in the Midwest. When it came to ethylene oxide, their comments, and if you don't mind, I'm going to read just to make sure I get it correct, were, we rely on Medline to supply the sterile supplies needed in order to provide patient care. Healthcare providers, such as doctors and nurses, depend on suppliers to use a clinically validated sterilization process that is proven effective in order to provide the products needed for surgical procedures. We would not be able to continue caring for patients the way we do today if there were any disruption to the availability of sterile medical supplies or the kits made in Waukegan. Healthcare providers and medical suppliers believe in continuous improvement and are working together to ensure products are sterilized safely and continuing to challenge themselves to find newer, more advanced ways for the future. Thank you, guys.
Hello, my name is Becky Torres, currently Director of Human Resources for Manufacturing Facilities at Medline. I am a resident of Gurnee. I've been with Medline approximately 19 years, 17 of which have been in Waukegan, supporting our 500-plus team members. I'm here in representation of those families. During my tenure at Medline, I have been a witness to our employees' dedication to Medline. Our average tenure in Waukegan is approximately 13 years. I truly believe that this is because of the employer-to-employee relationship we have cultivated throughout the years, as I have witnessed Medline's commitment to our employees and our safety by upholding the highest quality and safety standards. Always the top priority is our team's health and safety. The vast majority of our team also lives in Waukegan. We are a family business, and we consider our employees and their families part of the larger Medline family. In fact, a lot of our employees are related, and there are multiple generations of many families working at these facilities. We never, ever would knowingly do anything to jeopardize our team, our families, or the communities in which we live. Our employees know the importance of our role in healthcare. We take that mission very seriously. Given the level of quality, safety, and compliance that Medline insists on, I know the company will always follow the science and ensure that we are doing what is right and meeting all rules and regulations. I hope that as you continue to make decisions around this subject, you keep in mind that hundreds of Waukegan families that get up every day to be part of providing healthcare products that save lives. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dawn Rex. I am the mother of two beautiful boys. My youngest is 14 months old, and I also have a 3-year-old son. My 3-year-old son, Samuel, was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia on August 6, 2019. This is my son. 28 days ago, my entire world flipped upside down. 28 days ago, I learned that my 3-year-old little boy, Sam, has cancer, a cancer that has been directly linked to ethanol oxide. This is a fact. This is a fact. A cancer that has been directly linked to ethanol oxide. We live 1 mile from Medline. This company has been emitting this carcinogenic gas into my backyard, into the little lungs of my children, into their bloodstream. And now you are sitting here, even questioning the idea that this cancer-causing gas be spread into other communities where little children live and play? How is it even a question? This is my son, Samuel. He is fighting for his life in a hospital bed. You know what's going on. This is a fact. How many more children need to get sick before you do anything about it? How many more mothers have to fear their children will even get to go to kindergarten or watch their children cross the stage at their high school graduation or see them have babies or live a very long life? This isn't just cancer. It's the chemo that eats away through their tiny little bodies, killing not only the leukemia. This can cause lifelong complications. They don't just get one type of chemo. They get 10 different kinds over the course of 3.5 years. They lose their hair. They lose their fine motor skills. They develop neuropathy, pancreatitis, internal bleeding, blood clots, agonizing pain. This is my son, Sam. You know this gas causes leukemia. I live 1 mile. This is my backyard. This is where my children are supposed to feel safe. I want so badly for him to come home from the hospital, but I'm scared to bring him home because home is not safe. It's the trauma of knowing every time they go into the exam room, they're about to get held down, a fat needle shoved into their chest, blood drawn, flushed, even pulling into the parking lot of the hospital can trigger fear. This isn't just cancer. By passing this, you are saying that it's okay for children like my son, Sam. And I have to say, shame on you, Medline. Shame on you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joe Sanchez. I live here in Waukegan. I am the warehouse manager, and I also head up the safety committee at the plant. I can tell you firsthand that we take our employees' health and safety very seriously. We're always making sure that we're doing the right thing, and as my counterparts have said, we do provide a critical service to the healthcare, and our PACs help save lives every day. I also have a letter here from one of our employees that's been with us for 22 years who share the same sentiments. She has seen how much Medline has cared about their health and their safety, and for the last 3 years, Medline has won numerous health and safety awards because we're doing the right thing. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jamie Yabra, and I live in Lake County. I'm the Director of Operations for kit manufacturing and sterilization plants in Waukegan. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the employees that work in kit manufacturing and sterilization. On average, our employees have worked 13 years for the company. 20% of our workforce has more than 20 years of service. We have 29 employees that have more than 30 years of service. And we have 4 employees that have more than 40 years of service with us. The employees that work at Medline work hard to support their families, and many are the primary breadwinners. We employ families. even many generations at our site. Our employees are proud that they play a vital role in healthcare, and they feel a sense of responsibility and accountability to the hospitals and clinics we serve. We are a critical part of keeping operating rooms functioning, and every single day the products we make at Medline help save lives. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Melanie Brown. I'm a single mother of 3 kids. We moved to the Gurnee, Waukegan area 6 years ago so that my kids could pursue classical music. I've lived my whole life for my children, and had I known 6 years ago that I was planting myself directly in between 2 plants that are both producing carcinogenic gas, like I never in a million years would have come here. Medline and Vantage are both assuming that this area doesn't have educated people, wealthy people, anybody who's going to say anything and fight back, and that's just not true. We all deserve fresh air. We all deserve for our kids to be able to go out in the yard and play and do what kids do, and we can't do that here. I don't even let my daughter outside anymore. As I said, I'm directly in between the 2, so I'm getting gas from both sides. I understand that the employees come to talk on behalf of their company. They don't want to lose their job. There are many, many ways that they can sterilize medical equipment that don't emit a cancerous gas. It is completely ironic that a company who is touting that they are for health and that they are for our medical industry are actually producing gases that are making people sick. It is a proven fact that this gas can cause cancer. So in my opinion, this is a no-brainer. Why would they increase the stack height now before we've gotten all of the data to determine what actually is going to happen? I plead with all of you to at least at this level, keep the stack heights the same so that the information can be collected and everybody can make an educated decision. And my heart goes out to the people who are suffering from its effects, but honestly, we're all at risk, and people need to realize that and realize that we need to stand up for our rights, not just people in a wealthy community like Willowbrook or in Georgia. We deserve clean air as well. Thank you.
My name is Julie Hughes, and I've lived in Gurnee since 1996. I moved into the crosshairs between Medline and Vantage in 2002 and learned of some of the deception and the hidden agendas behind not telling the public about the EPA's levels that were exceeded for ETOs. I'm not impressed with any of the employees speaking on behalf of Medline about their safety, when safety protects your jobs, but it doesn't protect the lives of the people who are endangered by the ETOs. All of you who stand up here and talk about safety, but you're not really talking about the safety at large, the public. And there are alternative ways, alternatives to ETOs. And you've spent a lot of your energy and resources to get here 2 hours before this meeting to have this vote, before the rest of us can can get here and speak on behalf of the rest of the public. And that doesn't impress me either.
My name is Diana Burdett. I've been coming here for months to speak about the dangers of ethylene oxide, about how it wrecked my body. So I don't have to repeat any of that. But I do want to talk about arguments that have been brought up by Medline that these packs are life-saving for other communities. Just to be clear, this is the Waukegan community development. This is a meeting to make our community better, and you don't get to come in here and say that nationally It's making other communities better on our backs, on our lives, on our deaths, and our chronic issues. You don't get to come in here and say, it's going to make somebody else's life better, even though I see my child on zoo inhalers on a regular basis, even though I was malnourished for years. Another thing is that they claim there's going to be massive shortages. I believe that's the same argument Sterigenics used, and it wasn't proven correct, right? Nothing happened. I know it's difficult because everybody is looking at you, and not just from the community, on a national level, on a local level, on a state level. And it's unfair that this decision is being put on your shoulders. And it is unfair that our incredible city has to be the one at the front. But this is our community. And it's time to step up to the exploitation on behalf of a national community. This is our community, our shoulders, our burden.
My name is Maureen Brebner. EPA stands for Environmental Protection Agency. You protect frogs, lands, and emissions from vehicles. My car's engine light went on after 7 weeks of being with the mechanic. I was told it was fixed. However, when driving to the emissions center, the light was back on, and I knew I wouldn't pass emissions, so I'm not driving it. You, Medline, have known for 30 years about this toxic ethylene oxide, causing critical health issues and death, asthma, breathing problems, brain cell death, learning problems, eye problems, and yes, cancer. All kinds of cancer, and have done nothing. Now you want to lower the emissions when you know there is no safe levels, and increase the height of the stack to dilute it. In the meantime, people trying to eat healthy, as doctor recommendations, exercise, don't have Diet Pepsi and other things that are always advertised and different things for your health, are spending money at various numerous health problems, not being aware that they're breathing in this toxin. I recalled in 1966, when I was in nursing school, how warning signs were exhibited in the hospitals where to evacuate in the event of an explosion, because ethylene oxide is a very explosive gas, okay? We already had one with SB plastics, correct? And it was just human error. So who's to say even the development of this stack couldn't also explode in methylene? In 1980, when I was a pharmaceutical sales rep, I basically had a surgeon that could not operate but once a week because he was allergic to the gloves that are soaked with ethylene oxide. I've also learned that people having colonoscopies, sometimes the blood pressure will go down because of the tubing they use, because of the fact of ethylene oxide. Now, everyone doesn't know what they're allergic to. Anyone that's had a bee sting and goes into anaphylaxis shock will tell you that we all don't know our allergies. We have 20 houses around our block. 18 people have already died of cancer. 4 are still living. Brain cancer, brain tumors, breast cancer, learning problems. We have 4 survivors, but numerous treatment, 3 with asthma, 2 with learning deficits, multiple eye problems, and this has only been told to me because of HIPAA laws, right? Okay, I wonder if they did a study on persons with dementia or Alzheimer's, would you also see a concentration in this area exposed to ethylene oxide from Medline? I would venture to say that's a good possibility. I wish I could give you a glass of polluted water and so you could drink it. I understand your pipes are constantly being replaced at Medline because of the erosion of the ethylene oxide.
Ma'am, that's 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Let me interject real quick. We can keep letting people talk, and then what'll happen in about 20 minutes, how many people are gonna talk again? I mean, if everybody wants to get back up here and say the same thing again in 20 minutes, that's fine. Or we can have these people wait and they can talk during the council. Because we have about 20 minutes, we should be done in 10 or so. We can keep letting people talk, but then if you want to turn around and say the same thing again during the council meeting, that's fine too. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Are you planning to vote now?
Well, let me explain this.
Thank you.
All right? The committee, again, is just like a filter. What we're going to do is we're going to vote in the committee on whether to approve or deny. That has no binding power. Okay? The only binding power is when it gets voted on the city council when all 9 aldermen are up here. Okay? But by law, we have to allow audience time at committee meetings, and that's what we did. I don't know if people got confused, because you can come and talk again at alderman's time and repeat what you just told us another 3 minutes if you want. But I'm not trying to, but we'll be here till 2 o'clock in the morning. Because you guys don't want me to change audience time, and you'll be on audience time, and this is one of the last things on the agenda. You'll be here till 2 o'clock in the morning. I think you'll probably get a pretty good idea how it's going to go, or how the committee votes. I'm going to vote up here the same way I'm going to vote in committee. I'm not going to change my vote. And that's what I try to explain to some people, but I get your passion. Okay? So we can keep going and keep letting you talk, but it's going to be a lot longer tonight than maybe some of you expected. Go ahead, Alderman for you.
Just to clarify, whether we pass it or don't
Doesn't
pass
make a
it,
difference.
it's going to council.
It doesn't matter if it's recommended, it doesn't matter if it's 05 or 50. It doesn't matter. It matters when it gets to the 9 aldermen and they vote.
Okay.
So, do you people still want to talk and then talk again at the city council? Or do you want to talk to the city council, or do you want to talk now? It doesn't make any bit of difference. No, all these people, because that's what the podium is. Sorry, man, that's what the podium is. That's the long haul. Doesn't matter to me either. I mean, we all are too. I'm just trying to make it efficient, that's right. Yes, ma'am.
One more question. So, but wasn't this already voted on in committee?
No.
Not yet.
The planning and zoning.
It's the zoning, planning and zoning. Gotcha. Planning and zoning.
It's a 3-step process.
Okay. And it won't be at 7, it'll probably be a little bit after 7, probably 7, whatever, 20.
So we can talk twice, right? We can talk right now and then talk
If you talk once here, that's it, you got your 3 minutes. You want to talk again at the city council meeting? You can talk at the city council meeting.
After 7 o'clock.
Yes.
It's basically 2 different meetings.
Yeah, we misunderstood the first time.
Is anybody else from audience time that wants to speak? Yes, I'm not going to stop. I'm just going to ask you. Anybody else want to talk? You want to wait till city council? Does not make a difference to us. Go ahead, man.
I'll go now. And I will be brief. My name is Jamie Seaton. I live in Gurnee. I was a candidate for Gurnee Village Trustee. As a candidate, one of the things that I had access to was a lot of elected officials. I had people's ear. I had a platform, much like this one, to speak on. And what I learned in some of those conversations was, trust us, we're doing the right things. We're going to work with Lake County, we're going to work with all the organizational groups, and we're going to get canisters out there. Well, I live over by the middle school, where we've gotten plenty of no datas. We got one very randomly very high reading that there is no explanation for. And then the single reading following that very high one was, again, a no data. I don't have the science that some of my very esteemed colleagues have to tell you where the canisters should be placed, but I can tell you we do not have results yet. And so to move before we even have results and make the stacks higher is taking away any ability that we have to see what we're really dealing with here. So I'm not here to say, these businesses can't operate, but at this point, we haven't even gotten a measurement to decide if they're measuring within acceptable standards. You know, speaking with the Illinois EPA, they've freely admitted that Medline isn't, and that something has to be done in the next 6 months. So we should be making the decision. We should be doing what's right for the community and not be making decisions based on, you know, the perceived demographic of the two towns and the areas. You know, we're not getting treated the same as the other ones. So I'd like to ask that you not vote in favor of raising the stacks. That's all I have to say. Thank
you. Here's the other thing. If you're going to talk at the city council meeting, there is a sheet back there that you have to sign up for. We don't ever have a committee meeting like this, but that's fine. No one's complaining about it. But this was, I probably should have done that, but this is sort of casual as far as how we call the order up here. So if you're going to speak at the city council meeting again, then there's a sign-up sheet back there. Here's the only problem that we're going to run into, is that this is going to be near capacity pretty soon. And the fire marshal is not going to let anybody else in here.
They said they don't have speakers on up there, they can't hear anything anyway.
Okay, we'll get that fixed, thank you. All right, we need to get somebody on that. But the fire marshal is not going to allow many more people into the city council chamber. You can be out there or downstairs. But, okay, all right. You maybe want to talk? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Adrienne Doherty, and I'm a resident of Heather Ridge in Gurnee. I'm a recent cancer survivor, and like other survivors, I live with a compromised immune system, and the possibility of a cancer recurrence is with me every day. I'm really sorry that this is inconveniencing you. I know it's out of the ordinary and extraordinary, but the circumstances, I would argue, are extraordinary. So your attention, whether we speak again or only once, would be greatly appreciated. I'm going to continue. The findings in the Willowbrook Sterogenics case in 2018, followed by ETO legislation enacted in Springfield in 2019, were startling and undeniable. I assume the Illinois EPA were keeping a careful watch on threats to public health. Evidently, I was wrong. Research into ETO and its dangers made me realize that my trust in governmental oversight and industrial accountability was gravely misplaced. The threat posed by ethylene oxide emissions has been miscalculated, inadequately monitored, and misrepresented at the federal, state, county, and city levels. How could every level of government charged with safeguarding our health and safety keep dropping the ball so consistently? I'm here to represent vulnerable children and seniors and people with health challenges like myself. Parents who worry they have unwittingly put their children in harm's way by living here. Those who wonder if it's safe to ride their bike in the Lake County Forest Preserves along the Des Plaines River Trail or Independence Grove, or whether it's safe to walk their dogs. Finally, there are those homeowners who must now worry about the negative impact on their property values. Who compensates any of them for the potential loss? Who? You? In the past, officials in Lake County justified the designation of certain locations for industrial use. These were usually low-income areas which became environmental ghettos or sacrificial zones. This is no longer the Lake County of the 1970s. Jim Thompson is dead. Time has dramatically changed the demographics and the population density. Science has revolutionized what we know about the real dangers of pollution. The chemical industries must catch up to the realities of 2020. The air we breathe has no boundary. Everyone that breathes contaminated air, whether in Gurnee, Waukegan, Libertyville, Lake Bluff, Lake Forest, Knollwood, Green Oaks, or Mettawa, resides in an environmental ghetto. Thank you.
My name is CJ Walton. I'm a concerned citizen. I was here on August 8th, I believe it was, when Chairman Rodriguez said, and for those of you Medline employees that weren't here, I know very few, if any, were here. He said Medline has been an important part of the community for a long time. We would like to see them stay. We would like to see them prosper. We would like to see them grow. But I'm very concerned about the well-being of our community, our health, and I think it's something that has to override the dollar and profit. At no point was anybody out here saying Medline should just disappear. It was about trying to stop using ETO. And saying this is the only way is an excuse to save Medline's bottom line. Before the car, walking was the only way to travel on land. Before the airplane, the car was the only way to travel fast cross country. Before the space shuttle, Earth was the extent of our travels. As a manager of in an insights and new development division of a Fortune 20 company, and we have to comply with a number of safety guidelines and regulatory laws, I have observed one constant, and that is that there will always be hurdles to jump over in any large organization. These hurdles are often the major drivers of inspiration and innovation. These are the things that make change happen. When a law is created or changed, or a regulation enforced, a well-operating organization, they don't pack up and clap their hands and say, well, that's it, we're done. They innovate and drive change in the industry, and they work to leverage the benefits of overcoming that hurdle. I would be expecting Medline to be going after the ability to sell and say, we are the first or the largest or the biggest company to go with ETO free. As long as there's a system in place like ethylene oxide sterilization and it's the cheaper and easier option because it's there, Medline will continue to lean on that crutch. We, as elected government officials that are representing and protecting the citizens that voted for you, I ask you, do not allow Medline to lean on this crutch anymore. Do not allow them to increase the stack height that would in turn make air testing falsely appear better. Do not allow them to get by with being close enough or just good enough. Demand greatness for our community. So, the citizens need you to stay strong and to do what is right. Innovation will come and Medline will find another way, a better way. And at that point, they will be able to scale it, and they will have reason to scale it. So it will become cheaper and more efficient and more effective for them. Please challenge them to do this and to truly become a respectful neighbor in our community.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tatiana. I'm the resident of Gurnee. I would like to speak specifically now while Medline employees and administration are here. I would like you to hear me. I'm a mother of 3 beautiful children. They are 8.5 and 5-year-old twin girls. They're beautiful, and they've been exposed to ethylene oxide since day number 1 when they're born. It's very emotional to me. I am sick and tired of driving them away when the wind is southeast. That's when the wind blows on my house. That's when I get up and bring my children away from Gurnee as far as I can. That's a shame. So I am also here to ask you to please reject the Medline request to increase the height of the stack. We do not want ethylene oxide emissions to be dispersed further into our communities. Please be leaders of the community we want you to be, please. Please be pro-people, pro-health, and not pro-profit. Thank you.
Can you wait a minute or not? I'm going to need you here in a minute. All right, now to get, again, this vote will be it's just going to be a recommendation to the city council. It doesn't mean it's approved or disapproved. That will happen, I don't know, 2 a.m., I guess. Okay? And please understand, I'm saying that in jest, it's somewhat, okay, I understand the passion people, okay, but, so, what I need now
Call for a motion.
All right, what we're gonna do is, we gotta have a motion. Now, that motion can be either to approve or deny. I can't make the motion, I'm the chair, so I have to have a motion by Alderman Florian to
Deny.
deny. Do I have a second from anybody else? Somebody else has to make a motion to deny it.
I'll make the
You might
motion.
as well
Second.
Just go ahead, somebody make the second, and we'll.
Second the motion.
What will happen now is when she calls the roll call, an aye is to deny. An aye is to deny, okay? Roll call, please.
Alderman Turner.
Aye.
Alderman Florian.
Aye.
Call the roll, folks. We're really late already.
Yeah.
Alderman Florian.
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood.
Aye.
Alderman Seager.
Aye.
Chairman Moisian.
Aye. All right. For those of you, I am not going to change my vote on the city council. Okay? I'll say that again. This alderman's not going to change his vote. But I mean, like, I'm only missing Alderman Bolton and Alderman Taylor, but Alderman Taylor has been in the audience, all right? And Alderman Newsom. So, but with that said, now we have some other business we have to tend to in this committee. So, I don't know if you can leave and get back in. Well, all right, so, yes, ma'am. Yeah, we voted to deny it. All right. All right, next motion. Motion by Alderman Turner, second by Alderman Kirkwood, to present an ordinance extending a moratorium on a single-room occupancy units through October 22nd, 2019. Any discussion on that?
Why are we extending? Real quick.
Yes, no law, please.
Alderman Turner, we've been working on drafting that ordinance, but it's not quite ready yet, and we would like to tweak it and have it in what we feel is the final comprehensive form before we present it to the council. So we have a draft that we're working on, but several people are reviewing it. We're just not quite there yet.
It was extended in May, and we're 3 months later, and we're still working on finalizing it. Now we want to push it out another 2 months.
It requires a bunch of revisions to different sections of the code.
Okay.
We want to make sure we capture everything in one shot.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Noel.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Turner.
Aye.
Alderman Florian.
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood.
Aye.
Alderman Seager.
Aye.
Chairman Moisian.
Aye, thank you. Item C, motion to approve use of city property and waiver for noise to exceed 50 decibels, 9/14/2019 from 2 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. and 9/15/2019 from noon to 9 p.m. for Fiestas Patrias at Lot F for temporary road closures on 2019 for a parade from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. from Buttrick heading east on Washington ending at Genesee Street. Special events permit pending submission of proper paperwork and staff approval. Motion by Alderman Kirkwood, second by Alderman Seager. Any questions on that?
I have one.
Yes, Alderman Florian.
Why is there a parade that's lasting 5 hours? And why were the roads be closed that long?
This has been the same parade we've had for, oh man, I gotta say 16 years.
It's literally a 5-hour parade.
I believe that includes setup time
Yes.
and cleanup time afterward.
Okay.
It's an extravaganza. Roll call, please.
Alderman Turner.
Aye.
Alderman Florian.
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood. Alderman Seager. Chairman Moisian.
Aye, thank you. Item D, motion to approve use of city property and waiver for noise to exceed 50 decibels, 9/25/2019 from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. for Waukegan High School homecoming bonfire at Waukegan Municipal Beach. Special events permit pending submission of proper paperwork and staff approval. Motion by Alderman Kirkwood, second by Alderman Seager. Any questions on that one? Roll call, please.
Alderman Turner.
Aye.
Alderman Florian.
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood. Alderman Seager. Chairman Moisian.
Aye, thank you very much. Motion to approve use of city property 9/28/2018 from 9:30 to 9:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. for Waukegan High School Homecoming Parade. A Waukegan High School Homecoming Parade starting at Brookside campus, heading west on Monroe Street to Lewis, heading south to Turn, and heading east on Washington to Macquarie, and ending at Brookside campus on Monroe Street. Special events permit pending. Submission of proper paperwork and staff approval. Motion by Alderman Kirkwood, second by Alderman. Any questions on that? Roll call, please.
Alderman Turner.
Aye.
Alderman Florian.
Aye.
Alderman Kirkwood. Aye. Alderman Seager. Aye. Chairman Moiseo.
Aye. Motion by Alderman Kirkwood, second by Alderman Seager to adjourn. Any objections to that?
I object.
Not. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.